It lasted less than 2 seconds. Most people probably scrolled past it. Some viewers focused on the uniform. Others focused on the ceremony. But the moment that caught my attention was something much smaller. It was a look, a brief expression, and whether you agree with me or not, I think that tiny moment explains more about Princess Leonor's journey than 100 official statements ever could. Because sometimes the most revealing part of a public appearance isn't what someone says. It's what people think they see when the words stop. And that's where this story begins. When I watched that video, I noticed something fascinating. Not sadness, not happiness, not even confidence. What I saw was focus. The kind of focus that appears when someone understands the size of the road ahead. Now, before anyone misunderstands me, I'm not claiming to know what Leonor was thinking. Nobody can know that except Leonor herself. But what interests me is why so many people reacted the same way. Why did viewers feel there was something different about her? What exactly were they seeing? And that's the question I want to explore today. Because I don't think this is really a story about Leonor's eyes. I think it's a story about what people project onto future leaders. For years, Leonor has lived in a strange position. Everyone knows her name. Everyone knows her future role. Yet most people know very little about her as an individual. And when that happens, every public appearance becomes a blank canvas. People start searching for clues. Searching for signs. Searching for evidence that the future queen is ready. Or maybe evidence that she's not. That's human nature. And honestly, I do it too. We all do. We try to read stories into expressions. We try to understand people through moments. Sometimes we're right. Sometimes we're completely wrong. But the instinct never disappears. And here's where my first hot take comes in. I think many royal commentators spend too much time analyzing events and not enough time analyzing expectations. Because expectations are the real story. Leonor isn't carrying the same expectations she carried 5 years ago. They're bigger now, much bigger. The closer she moves toward her future role, the more every gesture gets interpreted. Every appearance becomes symbolic. Every smile becomes a headline. Every serious expression becomes a debate. That's a lot for anyone to carry. If you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe. I post every day. Now here's something I've been thinking about recently. What if people aren't actually noticing a change in Leonor? What if they're noticing a change in themselves? Stay with me here. A few years ago, many people viewed Leonor as a royal teenager. Today, more people view her as a future head of state. That's a completely different lens. The person might not have changed as much as the audience has. And that's what makes this fascinating. Because perception has power. The way people look at someone can transform the entire narrative around them. We've seen it happen before. Look at Prince William. There was a time when he was discussed primarily as the young prince. Now discussions focus on leadership, responsibility, and preparation. The conversation evolved. The same thing happened with Catherine, Princess of Wales. Public perception matured over time. And now I think we're watching a similar process unfold with Leonor. Not because of one speech. Not because of one appearance. But because enough small moments have accumulated. The audience is starting to see her differently. And that's a bigger story than any individual headline. Here's another thought. We live in an era where visibility is everything. Influencers succeed by sharing more. Creators grow by becoming more accessible. People like Mr. Beast built enormous audiences through openness and constant engagement. Royal life works almost the opposite way. The institution depends on mystery, distance, careful communication, restraint. Can you imagine how difficult that balancing act must be in 2026? The entire internet rewards visibility. The monarchy rewards discipline. And somehow Leonor has to navigate both worlds at the same time. That's not easy. In fact, I think it's one of the hardest challenges facing modern royal families. How do you remain relevant without becoming ordinary? How do you remain visible without losing the dignity of the role? How do you connect with younger generations without turning public service into personal branding? Those questions don't have simple answers. And maybe that's why people pay such close attention to moments that seem small. They're looking for evidence. Evidence of character. Evidence of growth. Evidence of readiness. Now let me share something personal. Whenever I see discussions about royal figures online, I notice two extremes. One group treats them as celebrities. Another treats them as symbols. But I think both approaches miss something important. They're human beings. Human beings operating under extraordinary circumstances. And when I remember that, I find these stories much more interesting. Because then the question changes. Instead of asking, what does this expression mean? I start asking, what kind of pressure creates this level of attention? Imagine knowing that millions of people might analyze a 2-second clip. Imagine knowing that strangers across the world might debate whether you looked confident, tired, happy, or concerned. That's an unusual reality. Most of us will never experience it. And yet for Leonor, it's becoming normal. That's the hidden cost I think people overlook. Not the ceremonies, not the schedules, not even the responsibility. The hidden cost is existing under a microscope. And over time, that changes how the public sees you. Maybe it changes how you see yourself too. Another thing nobody talks about enough is timing. Why are people suddenly having these conversations now? Why not 3 years ago? Why not 5 years ago? My answer is simple. Because Leonor's future no longer feels distant. For a long time, the future queen was an idea. Now she's becoming a reality. That's a huge psychological shift. The closer the future gets, the more attention people pay. The more significance they attach to ordinary moments. The more meaning they search for. And honestly, I understand it. History often feels abstract until it starts approaching. Then suddenly everyone becomes interested. Then suddenly every appearance matters. Then suddenly every detail feels important. Which brings me back to that original question. What did nobody notice about Leonor's eyes? Maybe the answer isn't found in her eyes at all. Maybe the answer is found in ours. Maybe what we're really noticing is our own growing awareness that she is entering a new stage of life. A new stage of responsibility. A new stage of public scrutiny. And because of that, we're paying attention differently. We're looking more carefully, listening more closely, searching for meaning where we previously saw routine. That's not a story about a single video. That's a story about a changing relationship between a future queen and the public watching her. And honestly, I think that's far more interesting. Because moments fade, videos disappear, headlines move on, but perception shapes everything. It shapes expectations. It shapes narratives. It shapes the future. So what have I learned from all this? I've learned that the most important stories aren't always hidden in dramatic events. Sometimes they're hidden in the way people collectively begin seeing someone differently. A future queen doesn't become significant because of one speech or one appearance. She becomes significant because millions of people slowly realize that the future they've been talking about for years is no longer far away. And once that realization arrives, even the smallest moments begin to feel larger than life. Maybe that's what people noticed. Maybe that's what they were responding to all along. Not a look, not an expression, not a mystery, but a growing sense that Princess Leonor is stepping into a role that feels more real with every passing day. And that, in my opinion, is the story that truly matters.